we're very excited to bring a new osteoporosis program over here. Osteoporosis and scoliosis go hand in hand, so that's why we felt like it was really good to marry those two things together in our studio. I'm Donnie and Lily. I don't know if we really officially met, but I'm the owner here, and we specialize now in osteoporosis, scoliosis, and Pilates. What you're going to learn today is what osteoporosis is and why it matters, how bone density affects your health, and we're going to learn about the LIFTMOR study, which is the study that this is all based on, and how strength training helps improve bone health. So we were just saying how we're super research based, so this program is also based on research, and then we're going to learn how strength training helps improve bone health. So that's what we're going to learn in this presentation. So what is osteoporosis? It's a decrease in bone density and the microarchitecture of the bone. We hear BMD a lot, and that's what I'm going to talk about, which is your bone mineral density. And why does it matter? Is it increases our risks for fracture. So in general, osteoporosis doesn't matter unless you fracture. So this program, not only are we trying to build bone mineral density, but also trying to decrease your risk of falling and fracturing long term. So really it doesn't matter unless you fracture. But it's widespread, more with women of course. 1 in 2 women, 1 in 4 men over 50 will suffer a fracture as a result of osteoporosis. So what is BMD? It's a measure of how much calcium and other minerals are in your bones, and it helps show how strong and dense your bones are. So you can see in that top picture, the architecture of the bones is really close, and then as we lose BMD, it just becomes more spread out. And then bones are actually living tissue, and they respond to the way we move. Loss of bone density is common occurs with age, particularly among women approaching menopause, which you all know, and falls are the biggest health risk for seniors. So that where bones are living tissue and they respond to how we move, that's the key point right here. How it is diagnosed, it's diagnosed using a DEXA scan, and women over 65 or men over 70, that's when it's generally recommended. But if you've had any kind of history of any kind of chemo or cancer, or then they'll do it earlier than that. So when you get your DEXA scan, this is, if you actually get the scan, this is what you get. We're looking at normal osteopenic, which means it's a little bit low, and then osteoporosis. If you ever see the T-score, what that T-score is it's looking at the average 30-year-old. So if it says your T-score is -1, that's 1 standard deviation below the average 30-year-old. And so osteopenia is -1 to -2.5. So that's what you'll see a lot on your DEXA scans. It'll say your osteoporosis, your T-score is -1, and that means you're 1 standard deviation below the average 30-year-old. So, and then osteoporosis is -2.5 to all the way down to 7, 8, 9. If you have osteoarthritis or arthritis in your bones, it actually makes your osteoporosis look better, because it makes the bone minerals look closer together. So that gives a skewed, actually for the better, if that makes sense. So what can we do for osteoporosis? Diet, meds, lifestyle, and exercise. I'm gonna obviously talk about exercise. I'm gonna add one quick thing about meds. There's 2 types of meds, and I'm not gonna talk a lot about it, but one stops bone loss, and then the other one goal is to build bone. In here we don't get into meds, but with all osteoporosis meds there are significant side effects, but we're not going to talk about that. So we want to really focus on that bones and muscles are a team. So if you're on an osteoporosis med, it's working on building the bone and building the bone density, but not necessarily building the muscle, and we need that muscle to be strong to move that bone. When we lose muscle, we also lose bone. That's just the way it is, and vice versa. Weak muscles can't support your bones, so we have to build muscle strength. Bone meds strengthen bones, not muscles, and bones, if bones aren't stressed by muscle, movement starts to weaken. So now we're going to talk about exercise. The doctors are really scared to get people to exercise because in their minds it shows, past research has showed no improvement with exercise and increased risk of fracture. And when you look at the research that was done in the past on what type of exercise was prescribed for somebody with low bone density, it was really light weights, which is the first one, just some gentle stretching, walking, or swimming. And none of those exercises actually stress your bones, so none of those are going to build bone density. So while swimming is great, walking is great, and even Pilates is not really building bone density. All of those are really great, but they're not building bone density per se. What we need is this progressive overload of heavy weights. So progressive overload means gradually increasing the amount of weight, which is the stress you place on your body during exercise. Your bones will build when placed under stress. This forces your muscles and bones to adapt and grow stronger and improves your balance, posture, and confidence. So now we go into this LIFTMOR trial. So this was done by a woman in Australia, Belinda. She's a PhD, and she has pretty much spent her life studying bone density. She's really brilliant. She's now done several more research trials on this, one specifically for men also. But she took 101 women with low and very low bone mineral density, and she put half of the group in a high impact resistance training and the other in low impact. So low impact would include Pilates, walking. She gave them the low impact group, she just had them do exercises at home. When she did this LIFTMOR trial, the group that did the high impact resistance training, they only did 4 exercises, that's it. They did a deadlift, which is picking something up like this. They did a squat, they did an overhead press, and they did hanging where you just hang and drop down. And all of those were done at heavy weight, 2 times a week, that's it. They did each exercise 5 times and 5 reps. So that's essentially 25 times each exercise. And you do it and you build up to that. So the first month of doing it is really just making sure that your body, that you're doing it correctly. So it's not heavy. We had a couple people start last week and they were all like, that was really easy. So we're just making sure that you're doing all of this right. Because even though most of the people in here exercise, and a lot of you exercise with us, these are totally different types of exercise. So
very technique. Can I come in for just a minute?
Yes.
So lifts that we do are just going to be very technique based, and so the first couple times is just to make sure everybody's safe and that you're moving properly. And then once your body understands how we're moving those weights, then we can slowly increase those weights. And heavy is going to be heavy for you, but it's that heaviness that your body's struggling a little bit. It's that stickiness. That's what really builds that strength in that bones. It's that. And a lot of women get scared to, oh gosh, when they get sticky, a lot of times people stop. But that's when we need to really push through. So that's all.
So what did they measure? So when she did this research, she obviously measured BMD using a DEXA scan, and she did this research over an 8-month period. So they looked at the DEXA scan of the spine and the hip, and they looked at muscle strength. She looked at functional performance, which there's these random functional tests, sit up and walk around a line, which is why we have all these random lines here. Tandem walking, so they have some functional tests, and then they looked at the posture, curvature of the spine. So here are the results. So the black, do I have a cursor there? Yeah. So the black cursor is the high intensity group, and then the white one is just the other group that did low intensity exercises at home. And so here it shows on the bottom the lumbar spine bone BMD. Let me see. So over here, this is lumbar spine BMD in that 8-month period increased versus the low intensity group actually decreased. And that's normal. If you do nothing, your bone mineral density does keep decreasing. So this one increased, and then this one is femoral neck, which is your hip, also increased very slightly, but when you compare the increase to the decrease, it actually increased significantly. So 84% of the people in the study that participated in the heavy weightlifting, 84% showed improvements in their lumbar spine, and 72% showed improvement in their femoral neck, so their hip. This was the back extensor, so how strong your back muscles are. This was the leg extensor, so much improvement. This is the timed up and go, so how fast it takes for you to sit right there, walk around that line, and come sit back down. And then the functional sit to stand test. So these were just more of the functional tests showing an improvement compared to doing low impact exercise. They even showed results, improvement in posture, looking at kyphosis. You can see the results over there. So in a nutshell, everything showed improvement. And so since doing this LIFTMOR study, what Belinda has done is in Australia, in Melbourne, she has opened what she calls the Bone Clinic. and it just continues to dump data in there. So she just has people coming in, regular people working out, and then she continues to collect data for it. And then anybody that participates, we're now a licensed, the program's called Onero, is that if we choose to, which I'm thinking we might, but we'll see how it goes, everybody's data, we look at DEXA scores before, we look at DEXA scores again in a year, and they kind of get dumped into her data. So she's collecting it from everywhere. So what should we do? So we talked about this. So osteoporosis, osteopenia is a condition characterized by low BMD, only matters if we break a bone. So bones and muscles should be paired together. So if you're trying to strengthen bones, you should also strengthen muscles. So that's my key. Low impact exercises, biking, swimming, lightweight training, and even Pilates do not increase BMD. And then I put in there, they're amazing. To maintain bone density, we must stress the bones with heavy weight-bearing exercises. And like Liz said, and it's scary for all of us, but we do it really slowly, because when you're putting a heavy weight on your back that already has low bone mass, we've got to make it. You want to say one?
Well, and just with you, just because of the technique, the thing is with lifting, doing properly, when you're set properly, your entire body is working. And that's like when to get set to prepare that weight, we have to brace with our abdominals. We have to have our back ready. We can't just drop it down. We have to be very ready, and your abdominal muscles, everything is going to improve. When we are lifting, we're going slow, and you might be thinking, oh, this is not that hard. Trust me, it's gonna get hard, but we're building this stuff. But in the beginning, safety is number one.
And so that's kind of my spiel. So that's a program that we're starting here. We're starting slow. Everyone starts out with an evaluation, and then it's a group class. If you follow us on Instagram, you can see where we're going with it. So we've got our first little group starting.
So is this once a week?
So the way that they did the study, you can do it however you want. The way that the study worked, and we're just basing everything on the study, was that it was a 2-time-a-week thing. And it's only 4 exercises. You could do those 4 exercises in 30 minutes. So we're kind of doing 2 different ways. The way that she sets it up is that it's an hour session. So you do the 4 exercises, and it's a rotation. And then in between those 4 exercises, you just do some balance stuff, we'll just do fun things on the BOSU. We'll definitely do things on the reformers. In between there, we might do a squat and then some footwork, or feet and straps, or then standing on the BOSU. And so that would be a full hour session. And then we are doing a 30 minutes added onto a Pilates. So you'd either do it at the beginning or the end of a Pilates session, but those will be in there too. And then those will just be 30 minutes, those 4 exercises, boom, but you would have already warmed up and doing that.
So are those results for people that went
twice a week? Yes. Twice a week for 8 months. So
you can really do a lot. You get a lot of bang for your buck.
So we're very, it's very new to us. I'm learning just as much, and it's like been a really good journey. So we're excited, because I think a lot of people